Part 1. The Long Waiting. Long ago, near the quiet edge of a small village, there lived a man and a woman in a simple stone house. The house was not grand, but it was warm. Morning light reached the kitchen table, and evening shadows moved gently along the walls. They shared their days peacefully, yet in their hearts lived a quiet wish. A wish they did not speak of often, but carried with them like a soft weight. They hoped for a child. Each morning, the woman stood by her window. From there, she could see into a garden beyond a tall stone wall. The garden was lush and green, filled with plants that grew freely, untouched by wandering hands. Leaves shimmered in the sunlight. Herbs bent gently in the breeze. Among them grew a tender green plant called Rapunzel, fresh and bright. As time passed, the woman grew weak. Her longing for the child grew stronger, and her body seemed to ask for rest and comfort. Often she gazed at the garden and thought not of wanting what was forbidden, but of how green life looked when hope was near. Her husband noticed her fading strength. One evening when the world was quiet and the sky had dimmed to soft blue, he made a careful choice. He climbed the stone wall and gathered a small bundle of leaves, not greedily, not roughly, but with care. He believed he was helping life continue. But the garden belonged to a woman who valued order and solitude. When she discovered the leaves had been taken, she did not shout or rage. She simply appeared. Her voice was calm, her presence firm. She did not ask for gold or apology. She asked for balance. "When the child is born," she said quietly, "she shall be named Rapunzel." And so it was. Part 2. The Tower of Light. Rapunzel grew gently. She was not restless nor loud. She listened more than she spoke, and when she sang, the sound seemed to settle the air itself. As she grew older, she came to live in a tall tower surrounded by trees and open sky. The tower was not a prison, it was a shelter. Sunlight entered from high windows. Birds rested on the stones. The wind carried sounds of the world far beyond. There was no door at the ground, only a window above the earth. Each morning, Rapunzel brushed her long hair, letting it fall like soft sunlight down her back. She sang quietly as she did, not to call anyone, but because the day felt brighter when she sang. From her window she watched seasons change. Spring brought blossoms, summer brought warmth, autumn brought golden leaves. Winter brought silence that felt deep, not lonely. Rapunzel did not count the days. She wondered. She wondered what lay beyond the trees. She wondered how it felt to follow paths instead of only watching them from above. She wondered how voices sounded when they spoke face to face. One afternoon, as she sang softly, something changed. A voice rose from below. Not loud, not frightening. Human. A young man stood near the tower, listening. Not intruding, only listening. Their conversations began slowly. Words carried upward on the air. Stories drifted down in return. Rapunzel learned that the world beyond was wide, but not unkind, that people traveled, rested, laughed, and waited just as she had. She felt no fear, only readiness, growing quietly. Part 3. Choosing the Open Sky. After that day, Rapunzel listened differently. She still sang each morning, but her songs changed. They grew slower, softer, filled with pauses where the air itself seemed to listen back. From her window, she watched the young man return again and again. He never called loudly. He never demanded her attention. He simply stood below and waited. They spoke of small things at first. He told her about walking long roads where the ground felt steady beneath each step. He described fields that moved like the sea when the wind passed through them. He spoke of evenings where the sky faded slowly, turning from gold to blue, then to quiet gray. Rapunzel listened with care. She asked questions, not hurried ones, but gentle ones. "What does it feel like," she asked once, "to choose where you go?" The young man thought before answering. "It feels like learning," he said, "sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once." Those words stayed with her. At night, when the tower rested in darkness, Rapunzel lay awake and listened to the wind passing through the stones. She thought of choice not as escape, not as rebellion, but as movement. She understood now that waiting had taught her patience, but staying forever would teach her nothing new. And still, she did not rush. Days passed, weeks passed. Her thoughts settled into clarity, not urgency. One morning, as sunlight touched the stone floor, Rapunzel felt calm certainty take root inside her. Not excitement, not fear, readiness. She spoke to the woman who had watched over her life with steady presence. Her voice was respectful, her tone quiet. "I am grateful," Rapunzel said, "for the care, for the time, for the safety." She paused, then continued, "But I am ready to walk where I can see the horizon." There was no anger in the answer she received, only silence, and then a slow nod. Change, when chosen gently, does not need argument. That day, Rapunzel prepared not with haste, but with care. She touched the walls of the tower one last time, not as a goodbye, but as acknowledgement. She looked out across the trees, the fields, the open space waiting beyond. When she descended, she did so slowly. Each step toward the earth felt unfamiliar, yet grounding. The ground beneath her feet was firm, steady, real. She stood there quietly, breathing in the open air. The sky felt vast, but not overwhelming. It felt welcoming. Part 4. A life that unfolds gently. Rapunzel's life beyond the tower did not rush forward. It unfolded. She learned the rhythm of walking, how feet met the earth, how paths curved without asking permission. She learned the sound of voices spoken close by, no longer carried through air and distance. She learned how mornings began, not with waiting, but with doing. She walked through villages where people greeted one another with simple kindness. She listened to stories told beside warm fires. She learned how laughter sounded when it echoed against walls instead of stone towers. Her voice remained gentle. When she sang now, it was not to fill silence, but to share calm. People paused when they heard it, not because it demanded attention, but because it offered rest. The tower remained behind her, standing quietly among the trees. It did not disappear. It did not call her back. It simply existed as beginnings often do. Rapunzel did not feel anger toward her past, nor did she feel the need to explain it. She understood something important. A place can protect you and still not be where you are meant to remain. Her days grew fuller, yet never crowded. She learned that happiness did not arrive as a sudden gift. It came as a series of gentle moments, shared meals, quiet walks, evenings where the sky dimmed slowly and no one hurried it along. At night, when the world settled into stillness, Rapunzel rested easily. She no longer watched life from above. She lived within it, and sometimes, when the stars appeared one by one, she looked up and smiled, not because she was remembering the tower, but because she was grateful she had learned how to wait before learning how to step into the open world.